So sepsis is an infection of the blood that attacks all your vital organs, as you know, and it can stem from an infection on your hand, or in my husband's case, it was bronchitis that turned into pneumonia. Sepsis, it's a little confusing for a lot of people. Most people don't know the signs, but if your listeners go to sepsis.org there and scroll down, there's a diagram that says time.
Version of yourself. Welcome to another inspiring episode of Podcast with SHEILA, the podcast that is spreading positivity around the world by sharing inspiring life experiences. Today's guest, Christina Flach, mother of 5, celebrity makeup artist, CEO and founder of Pretty Girl Makeup, has been making strides to make a difference and bring awareness to the disease that took her husband, Ken Flach, an American double world #1 tennis player, from her on March 12, 2018. Today's episode is to raise awareness on sepsis and how to save life and not lose loved ones who catch the disease. We'll also be talking more about Christina's life, work journey, and her achievements. Hello, Christina, and welcome to Podcast.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure to have you today, and I'm excited about today's episode. I think I was speaking to your assistant about it because I'm a sepsis survivor.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, another opportunity to share my experience, so I'm excited for us to talk about it. But before we get right into today's topic, tell us a little bit about Christina, who she is, where she comes from, the basic stuff like that, so that the audience know who our guest really is for today.
Well, you pretty much said everything. Yes, I am the mother of 5. I am a celebrity makeup artist and the creator and founder of Pretty Girl Makeup. I am also a philanthropist, and I am a sepsis awareness advocate. And that's pretty much everything.
Great. So what is sepsis? Somebody would like to know what sepsis is, because I didn't know what it was. When I was,
Nor did I.
Yeah, when I was on my deathbed, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I had a lot of chills and I felt very, very unwell.
Yes. So sepsis is an infection of the blood that attacks all your vital organs, as you know, and it can stem from an infection on your hand, or in my husband's case, it was bronchitis that turned into pneumonia. Sepsis, it's a little confusing for a lot of people. Most people don't know the signs, but if your listeners go to sepsis.org there and scroll down, there's a diagram that says time. And what time stands for, T is for temperature. You can be incredibly hot or incredibly cold. I is for infection in some place in your body. M is for mental decline. You start feeling a little bit not clear, a little cloudy. And E is for excruciating pain. You feel like you're dying because you probably are. And it's kind of like childbirth. You don't know how bad it is until you're in it. And I think that's probably the best way to describe sepsis. It's not your normal flu or cold. And so you really need to be aware of the symptoms. And oftentimes people don't know they're septic, and then it's too late. But if you think you have any of those signs, you can go to the doctor, the emergency, and request a blood test and say, I think I might have sepsis. And they can get you on an IV antibiotic, and you'll be saved.
So
it's not one of those things that you can wait till tomorrow and go, oh, if I don't feel better tomorrow, I'll go to the doctor. No, you need to go now.
So how did your husband's own come about? Like, how did it happen for him to get septic?
Well, he had a cold, and it turned into bronchitis and pneumonia. We called his doctors at Kaiser Permanente here in the States. And they have a protocol of speaking with an advice nurse and then your doctor. Well, they misdiagnosed. They didn't see him. And they gave him the wrong medicine. They gave him cough medicine with codeine and an inhaler and no antibiotic. So if you have an infection in some place in your body and you are not given an antibiotic, when you're given cough medicine with codeine, it slows down your breathing and it makes the infection grow at an insanely great rate. And so by the time 16 hours later, My husband was spitting up blood. I rushed him to the emergency, and he was on life support immediately.
My God.
And never regained consciousness because his doctors failed to see him. So
as I listen,
that is a big problem here.
It is a big problem. And sometimes you don't know how big the problem is until you are in the situation. And as I listen to you talk, I feel privileged. Well, I've always felt that way. But when I first spoke to your assistant and all that, I had the moment to reflect and to be grateful for life.
Absolutely.
Because looking at the time your husband had his, it was just about a year. Just about, because he had the date, from what I see, was in March. Mine was in March as well, but in 2019. So like a year.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And when I think about it, you just have to appreciate life when you have it. Because I got pregnant. I didn't even know I was pregnant. I found out later. And then I was too active during my pregnancy because I didn't know I was pregnant. So I miscarried. Then instead of them doing an evacuation, they said, oh, we'll just leave you, and then everything comes out in your next cycle. Then I didn't feel too well.
Gosh.
I didn't feel too well. I went back to the hospital. They still insisted, oh, just go, everything will come out in your next cycle. So I think I had done the trip to the hospital twice or thrice, and on all occasions they said, go home and in your next cycle. So I'd just been expecting my next cycle, everything will come out. Then one time I wanted to make a dress for myself, so I was standing in a big mirror like that. All I felt was a gush of blood, and I was so scared. It was just myself and my children at that time, just the three of us, my little children, just the three of us. My husband was on a work trip. So I quickly rushed into the bath. I first sat on the closet, on the bowl. And then it was as if you've turned the tap on. That was what was happening.
Oh, that's so scary.
So I quickly jumped into the bath. And then I realized I was going to pass out, looking at my strength.
Oh, my.
So I quickly made a call for somebody to come and take over the children. I was trying to call the hospital. I couldn't get through. And then my friend said, open the door. So I had to open my door, my window, because if I pass out, my children will not be able to open the doors and windows and all that. So I did that. When my friend came in, I had passed out.
Oh my gosh, I've got goose. I'm so sorry.
And at that time I wasn't septic. At that time, it was just extra blood. I don't know whatever was coming out. So they took me to the hospital. The ambulance picked me up, took me to the hospital. They stopped the blood. And they asked me to go back home the same day. I said I wouldn't go. They said, you have to go because we need a bed. You're fine. And I said, I don't want to go. I'm scared because it's just myself and my children. I want to be well before I go. I know I'm not well. Then they said, you have to go.
You know your body.
Yeah.
And good for you for sticking up for you. You have to be your biggest advocate. And it's so hard because we are in a culture where, we respect doctors and listen to them, but we have to listen to our bodies because our bodies tell us things and we have to listen. And you knew that there's no way you lost so much blood. I mean, you probably needed a transfusion. I mean, you certainly weren't ready.
They still sent me home. That's
awful. Oh my God.
Yeah, if you stay in here, nobody's going to attend to you. So at a point, it was becoming like a back and forth. So I finally decided to come home. Then about a week after, that was when I became septic. I was laying in bed and I suddenly felt massive cramp in my abdomen, then intense headache. Then suddenly, like in a split second, everything was happening like that. Suddenly, my nerves were shutting down. I felt my nerves were shut. I was just like that. Felt so cold, but body felt very warm.
Yeah.
I called for the ambulance. They said, "Oh, we can't come and get you. We can't pick."
Oh my God! This story's making me crazy.
My God! So when I listened to all of that, actually, when I was on my bed in the hospital, I knew God has spared my life.
Absolutely. Angels were watching over you.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that makes sense. I cannot believe you're alive.
Honestly. Yeah. I couldn't believe it at all. I had to get a taxi right in front of the hospital reception. I was able to make it through the door. I collapsed. That was the last thing I could remember.
Oh my.
When I woke up, doctors had surrounded my bed. I felt so cold, but they wouldn't give me a blanket because they said your temperature is too hot. So I could make a few words. I said, what's happening to me? Those were the words I got out. The nurse turned and said, you have sepsis. What do you expect? So
what do you expect?
And I didn't know.
You did this on purpose.
I didn't know what sepsis was. So I pulled out my phone and tried to read a little bit. And just then, I knew how serious it was. I think when I read it, it said 10% of those who get septic survive.
Oh my gosh.
So I said,
who are your doctors? They should be in jail, honestly.
I stayed in the hospital for a period of 9 days. On the 4th day there, my heart rate drastically dropped. They had to rush me to intensive care. So when I listened to your story, because it just happens so quickly, if you are not careful, you will die.
Okay, absolutely.
So I'm glad you're doing this kind of thing for people to be aware of it, because I'm just beginning to know that you don't just become septic out of a miscarriage from you.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know about, like, you're in London, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here in the States, if you would have had a miscarriage, they automatically do a DNC to clean out your uterus, because exactly for what happened.
Yeah.
To avoid that. So that was the first mistake they made. And listen to me, I sound like I think I'm a doctor. But but you know, it's unbelievable that these things happen.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that it happened. And you went back repeatedly, so that's even more frustrating.
Yeah.
But there really is a time factor with sepsis that if you don't get in, I mean, it's a miracle your organs didn't shut down.
Yeah.
It really is. And thank God. I'm so grateful
Yeah.
for you and your family that you're okay.
Yeah.
But it really is important. Time is a major factor in surviving sepsis. So,
my God. I also read that you help people deal with grief. What is the best way to grieve? I've had multiple times to grieve because I've had stillbirth. My baby died at 38 weeks.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And I think that happened, that as well, they had vaccinated me. I said I wasn't sure it was right for me at 36. They said, oh, you'll be fine. You're still within the window. And when they gave, I think I was still 30. When they gave me that injection, the baby died. I felt the baby die in my womb. I felt it because I felt the baby struggle in my womb. So I felt it. So I've had my portion of dealing with grief, and I wouldn't say it's a great thing, but what is the best way to do it? Because a lot of people go through things. It may be different from, it wouldn't have to be the death of a child or it could be anything, but people are grieving in this time, day and age, with a lot of things going on. What's the best way to deal with grief?
Well, I am so sorry for the loss of your baby. My baby died as well on Christmas Day when he was 4.5 months old. And obviously my husband passed away, my mother, my business partner. I've had a lot of loss. But let's go back a bit. After my husband passed, my daughter, who was actually studying in London for 4 years at Central St. Martin's University, came home, and she came into my office, and I was having a breakdown. I was crying. I was so angry. And she said, you know, Mom, you have to be grateful for the time that you had with Ken and not for what you didn't have. After Bo died, my son, you were so sad, and he made you laugh and smile again. And all of us, he healed all of our hearts. So when she came to me from that perspective, I thought, she's right. I do have to be grateful. You know, when we meet people that we love, whether it be your husband, your friend, your child, we're not given an automatic 100 years with these people. We are given whatever we are given with, and we have to be thankful for what we have and not for what we don't have.
Exactly.
I also was on a hike one day, and I was walking, and I could hear my husband's voice in my head, because he talks to me sometimes, and he was saying that it was really hard for him to watch me sad and crying from up there and not being able to comfort me the same way that he could when he was alive. And when I thought about that from that perspective, I just thought, wow, how I'm not doing him any honor or service. It's not making him feel better that I'm down here miserable, even though I think a tiny bit he would like that I'm sad. But I think the greatest thing that we can do to honor our loved ones is to be happy and to be grateful and to have purpose. So I started, when my son Bo passed away, I started the Bo Friedman, the Baby Bo Educational Fund at the Northern Lights School in Oakland, California. And after Ken passed, I started the Ken Flach Educational Fund at the same school. It is a school for underprivileged children, a private school. They're most 90% are there on scholarship. And so nutrition and education are incredibly important to me. And so I thought the best way that I can honor them is by helping, children get a great education. I started with my friend Lisa Zimmer at the Edna McGuire School in Mill Valley, California, the Bo Friedman Outdoor Classroom and Garden. And it's an amazing garden that has fruit trees and vegetables and chickens, and the children plant seeds and they grow them and they watch and they do science experiments and they cook with them and then they eat what they've grown. And I feel that if children are exposed from kindergarten to 5th grade, they are going to have a lot higher chance of growing older, selecting a healthy choice of carrots or a salad. And so I try to use my grief in a positive way to help others. And I do feel that that is the best thing that we can do. I also know at the beginnings of grieving, I know it's really hard, but I also know that when I got too tired, too hungry, I didn't exercise, didn't think of things that I was grateful for, everything seemed worse. So it's super important at the beginning to make sure that you are eating and drinking water and resting and exercising and getting some fresh air and helping others and just dealing with it. It's not going to go away, your grief. You have to learn to, it's not one of those things you get over. It's something you learn to manage and live with. And I think that, everything is a blessing in life. It just doesn't seem like it at the time. We may not know in this minute, this week, this month, this year, or this lifetime why these things happen, but they do. And so we just have to think of, what we learned and what we were blessed to have in our lives. And so that's, for me, the best way to deal with grief. Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. Like looking at the positive side of it, how to spin the whole thing out into something positive. Like me, I remember when I was on my bed during the sepsis period, I said, when I come out, I'm going to start a podcast, share my story. So that is where Podcast with SHEILA started. So at least is a clear example of turning something around into something positive and have a positive platform where people can meet, talk about their stories to encourage others. So somebody may be listening to us or have an opportunity to listen to this maybe 6 months down the line, a year down the line, we don't know. But because the message is out there already, it becomes like source of comfort. They can relate to it. Because trust me, I had my sepsis story and I have it as a personal story. I never knew I was going to meet you. At the time I was going through it, I never knew I was going to meet you. You get it? So if your story is out there and I listen to it and I've not been able to deal with my pain from the past, your story alone can give me comfort, encouragement to go on and know that, if she's done it.
And I think the best thing that we can do is to honor our loved ones and ourselves, is to think of, in a loving way, think of spreading the word about this and think about all the amazing blessings that you have and how great that you took that experience and are doing something positive. And thank goodness for your children and your husband that you're still alive. I mean, thank goodness. And, I think it's really great when we have these things happening to us they're actually happening for us to help others. So bravo to you. I think that's all we can do.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think also finding love again and loving people, thinking about all the people that we have in our lives that bring us love. I have a new love in my life.
Great.
And I know that Ken sent him. They're so similar, and there's signs of Ken in him that are it's amazing. They both have children that are the same age. They have all these different traits that are super similar, and so I know that Ken picked him for me, and I am very grateful.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, and I'm excited at the course, like what you're doing. If there's anything little from my side I can do to support this sepsis awareness, I'll be glad to do it. If you let me know anything little, to tell my story or something, just to share my experience for people to know that you could have sepsis from anything, I'll be willing to do it to help create awareness of it, because I doubt that people know much about it like this. I doubt.
Right.
Well, I don't know, but
the thing is telling stories.
Yeah, if I didn't know, I believe someone out there didn't know as well what it was. So yeah,
right,
exactly.
I met one of my closest friends. She heard a podcast that I was on, and she sent me a note on Facebook. Very rarely do I check the messages, but she said, "I think my husband has sepsis. What do I do?" And I said, "Get to the doctor." And they said, she called me and said, they say he doesn't. And I said, just get a blood test. And she insisted. And thank God she was his advocate, and she saved him. And so she always says that I am her angel and I am her sister, but then sadly, 2 years later, she called me, and it was right before the anniversary of Ken's passing, and her husband was getting a foot surgery, and he got sepsis and he passed away.
Oh my God.
But she, instead of being, she is so amazing. Her name is Melinda. Instead of being just so angry, even though she has moments of that, but she is like, I am so grateful that I had 2 extra years with him, because I could have lost him 2 years earlier if I hadn't heard your podcast.
Oh my God. Another thing, let me find out. Do children get septic as well?
Anyone can, yes. Mm-hmm.
My God. Anyway, there's another thing I want us to talk about, your journey your life journey as a makeup artist. How did it start for you?
Yes.
How did is it a pretty girl makeup brand? Is it
makeup?
Yeah.
Yes, that is my brand. Yes, I started doing makeup on my family and friends, and my mother, she had brain cancer, and she was going out with my dad one day, and I said, "Oh, Mom, let me make you, do your makeup."
Yeah.
And she didn't have that many makeup products, but I miraculously, transformed her into looking like her beautiful self. And what really touched me was how she felt, looking differently. And so that's what I love about makeup, that you can make people feel good on the beauty from the inside out, I think is super important. I love to speak about nutrition and how to have that healthy glow, being happy, laughing, having love in your life. It all shows in your face and your energy. And I started doing family and friends after that, and then I got a portfolio together, and I managed to get an agent. And so it just started from there. I've been very blessed, and I have worked with extraordinary people and met these amazing people that I would not meet in my normal life.
Yeah.
I've worked with Gucci and Louis Vuitton, Condoleezza Rice, Journey, Metallica, Dana Perino, Rita Moreno, Hilary Swank. I've worked with amazing people, and it is so much fun, and I love it. It's hard work. You wake up early, you have long hours, but I enjoy it very much. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm working on my makeup brand.
Oh my God. Wow. I can see your hands are really full. But what is a day like for you with a celebrity, like doing the makeup for them? Is it a whole day? Do you spend the whole day with them doing makeup? How is it like? Is it a lot of pressure? What is it like? Is it easy working with celebrities? Is it difficult? Are they saucy? What is it like to be working with them?
Well, okay, I just did a show with Tyler Florence. He's a celebrity chef here in the States for the Food Network. Okay. And it was 6 weeks, and we were traveling around all of Southern California. He's been my client for over 15 years. He's a lot of fun. We laugh a lot, but we wake up early, and I just make sure that besides making sure he looks perfect for camera and his hair, I make sure that he has water, and, touch him up during the day. Yeah. For fashion, for example, if I'm doing a catalog or I'm working with a brand, it's constant making sure the model is camera ready. And the hair and the makeup, it's intense sometimes. It's a lot of pressure. And then there's downtime, and you're sitting and you're doing other things. But it's a lot of it is just making sure for the camera that the person looks flawless, so that the photographer doesn't have to do a lot of work in post. So
great. There's this myth out there that when you do a lot of makeup, you age quickly. How true is that?
I disagree. Actually, now makeup, has UV protection in it, so it's protecting you from the sun. And of course, you have to remove your makeup every day, your mascara, all the thing, and wash your face, let it breathe. But it does not age you. That's completely false. The aging, what ages you is smoking, drinking, not getting enough exercise, not sleeping, not taking, protecting your skin from the sun. Those are things that age you, but certainly not makeup.
I have personally found out that when I make up, the skin on my face looks relaxed and younger. Because, before I apply my makeup, I always put baking powder over my face.
Oh, really?
Because I have very oily skin. And I realize that it doesn't make me, my makeup go, should I say, old quickly. So it looks fresh for a good part of the day. Yeah. And I don't know if the baking powder is working wonders, but I think it is. Because in the past, I suffered from... I've never heard that. Yeah, in the past, I suffered from acne, and it left the skin on my face really bad. But I see that the baking powder is kind of working so good for me. So for me, I think that makeup doesn't make you age. But it's an argument out there that if you... Yeah.
There's an argument for everything out in the world.
There is.
I think, I think taking care of, I think coconut oil is really fantastic for your skin and your hair and your body. And you can use it in your hair, you can use it on your face, you can use it, on your feet to massage. It's really fantastic. You can put it on your teeth as it takes out all the toxins in your mouth and whitens your teeth. So I think, and drinking a lot of water is super helpful. Some people have a hard time dealing with dairy products. Yeah. But I really do feel I drink every morning when I wake up a glass of water with a lemon squeezed in. That keeps away my sugar cravings and then just realkalines my system. So I think and probiotics are very helpful. Gut health, I think, is so important for just overall health.
Wow.
So it does matter what you put into your body, definitely.
It does. I agree with you. What unique makeup tip can you leave with us? Be it a male or a female, one unique makeup tip.
Well, I think, everyone has discoloration under their eyes. And so making sure that you have an eye cream or some moisturizer and then concealer underneath it, and do it in layers so it's not thick. You just, put it in, tap it in. Foundation should not be lighter or darker. It should just disappear. So that's the best way to figure out which is the right color for you. Filling in brows is really great because it frames your eyes. Changing mascara out every 3 months. It doesn't last forever. It's not one of those. It's not eyeshadow that'll last a year. But those are some tips.
Great. I think those are really good ones. I like that. But there's another thing that I've realized out there, and I've been thinking of putting a podcast on it out there. But once we are talking about makeup, nutrition and all that, let me chip it in. Have you realized that lately little children as little as 5 tend to have body odor? You
Really?
Yeah. And this you get this off when they are in their teenage age, but it looks like the hormones are beginning to work very quickly in younger children. I don't know if it's the food we eat is it because we eat a lot of processed food? I don't know. But little children tend to have...
I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, so I've wanted to say that parents should keep an eye on them. Else we'll be growing a lot of children, a generation... Yesterday I put something out there. I said we'll be growing a generation of smelly children because all over the place. And that is one thing I can't stand. So I tend to be worried about it because I meet these children and
Okay, first of all, are they drinking enough water? Okay, water is huge. They probably aren't drinking enough water. We need water to flush out all the toxins out of our body. And, I would probably be looking at organic food to make sure they're not having a bunch of hormones in their food and their meat. And worrying is a big waste of time. It is praying for bad things to happen. So focus on what you want instead of what you don't want.
Wow.
That would be my best advice.
I like that.
And yes, worrying is just a waste of energy.
Wow. If you had one wish for this year, what would that be and why?
There'd be no war. There'd be more love and happiness and laughter and joy. That would be my wish for everyone.
Oh my God. I think I agree with you because the war in Ukraine is made our bills go high, very, really, really high. Energy bills.
Yes.
I hear it's going to be 3 times what we used to pay come October, and I'm dreading it. So I agree with you that we pray there'll be no more wars and we can live happily in a nice environment. Yes. And I can't agree with you any less. Yes. What would your message be, your final message be as we wrap up?
Well, I would say that I hope everyone is doing what they love and, wake up every day inspired, working and doing what they enjoy. And if you don't, then change your life. The only one that can make you you're in charge of your life. It's not going to change on its own. You need to do it. So if you don't like your job, you don't like where you live, you don't like your relationship, make some change.
I like that.
And there's no mistakes to me or failures in life. The only failure is not trying. And if you don't try, that is a failure. If one thing doesn't work out, learn from it and do something else. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. I agree with you totally. I totally agree with you. Would like to say a massive thank you, Christina, for coming on Podcast with SHEILA today.
Thank you so much. I wish you and your family my love.
Oh my God, thank you very much. Thank you. And it was a delight talking to you. If you've been listening in, this is season 2, episode 64 of our podcast series, where we've been bringing seasoned guests with inspiring real life stories to share with us. Do not miss out on all these lovely experiences. Subscribe and be notified when a new episode is released. Whilst at it, please drop us a rating. We have a video presentation of this episode on our YouTube channel. Just search for Podcast with SHEILA on YouTube and you'd find us. Our prayer for you this week is to receive divine strength to power through life and emerge victorious in all things. Until we meet again, have a great